This might actually be pretty controversial, this one right here. All right, this one is Kurzgesagt about weed. Uh-oh.
Cannabis has been vilified to a ridiculous degree for the last century, but it's now finally being decriminalized in more and more places around the world. It's just recently been legalized in Germany, and for very good reasons. Compared to legal drugs like alcohol, which will cause 1 in 20 deaths just this year, cannabis is pretty mild. So, to justify harsh prosecution and punishment, its negative effects have been wildly overstated.
Okay, hold up. I know this is anecdotal, but I don't know how much of this is true because, again, this is just anecdotal. This is what I've experienced. Everyone that I know that has done weed, specifically, I don't know if this is specifically related to non-smoking weed, like gummies and like stuff like that. But everyone I know that has done this has changed as a person, like after they did it.
Naturally, there was a lot of pushback, and here's something went wrong. If you followed the discourse over the last few years, you might have got the impression that weed has almost only upsides and few, if any, negative side effects. We ourselves contributed to that narrative.
Oh my god, wait, are they gonna talk about negatives?
What made this worse is that criminalization made it very hard for scientists to study cannabis, especially its long-term effects. They faced bureaucratic and legal hurdles, and studies often had to rely on small sample sizes.
I actually thought this was going to be a positive video. I thought I was going to be like negative on the video.
In the last few years, this finally started to change, so it's time to bring new evidence to the discussion.
It's half and half.
And, well, it's not pretty. While weed is still much less harmful than alcohol, it does have a dark side. It is more addictive than we thought and can have significant negative effects if—
Wait, hold up. Didn't they say, wasn't the whole thing when they were like, oh, we should make weed legal? Wasn't the whole thing was that it wasn't addictive? Wasn't that what they said? Well, scientists, we meet again. Well. Leaflit the science denier. Skeptical.
if you use it long term.
How the
It seems
turntables.
What are you doing? Before you tell us how dumb we are, please watch the video. To be crystal clear, we think
How many people clicked off, guys? I wish I could see their retention graphs. I just want to see like that part. It's more addictive than we thought. Instantly, like half the people stop watching the video.
prohibition doesn't work and cannabis should be legal. But this also means that we need to treat it as what it is, a drug, with unique upsides and downsides.
Okay, God bless.
So
a
let's
balanced
take
take.
an honest look at some of the latest research together. Weed is getting stronger and stronger. Cannabis's magic juice is tetrahydrocannabinol, THC. It docks on your cannabinoid receptors, which affects various brain functions. THC activates some regions and
Don't
calms
forget
down
leaf meth
others,
was considered
creating a fun
non-addictive
cocktail
back in
of
the 20s and was given to pregnant women.
What? Oh, wait, hold on. Didn't they used to drink cocaine wine? Is that like a joke? Was that like a joke? Or is that real? Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. I think it was real. Yeah, cocaine wine. They used to drink cocaine wine. Rich people cocaine wine.
sensations. The more THC, the more intense the high. And people seem to be into higher highs, or at least this is what the market is providing. In the US, Canada,
People that I know, my brother really tried to get me to smoke weed. He was like, dude, he was pushing it so hard. He was like, yo. And the thing is like, he knows exactly like how to hit me like perfectly. He knows like my mentality. And dude, he was like, yo, Leaflit, yo, sis. And I was like, yeah, bro, weed will like open up your pathways and you'll get like magic powers. And I was like, wait, what? You get magic power? Yeah, it's gonna open up like your mind. I was like,
and in Europe, the concentration of THC in legal and illegal cannabis products has more than doubled in the last few decades. While ever more potent strains are bred, products like edibles or concentrates with more than 60% THC have become increasingly common, while the share of products with less than 15% THC has declined. Unfortunately,
because like I would go camping with like my family and like my family. I mean, when I say my family, I mean like the kids plus my mom, and everyone except me and my mom would be like doing weed and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not into it. I'm not a drug person. Sorry.
just about
I don't even drink.
Every problem weed creates gets worse at higher THC doses. At the same time, more and more people use weed. In the US, more people consumed cannabis daily than alcohol for the first time in 2022. In Canada, 26% of people 16 and older use it, up from 22% in 2018. It's not possible to say if legalization is the reason for this, though, since studies are pretty inconsistent and vary massively between different users.
You drink tea, which has caffeine, which is a drug in it. Yeah, but you know what I mean. I mean, like, basically drugs that heavily alter your state of mind. I don't know, does caffeine do that? It's possible.
Some
I don't know.
consumption went up. In others, it stayed stable, and the trend to use more weed began in the early 90s and sped up in the 2000s, way earlier than legalization. So today, more people consume more weed than ever before in the last century, and it's the strongest it's ever been. What are we seeing as a result of this? Let's start with something that used to get you laughed out of the room: addiction. Weed addiction and withdrawal symptoms. A big narrative about weed is that it's not addictive, or at least not that big of a deal. And for most people, this is true. Studies clearly show that the majority handle it well. For 8 out of 10 using weed, it's just a casual hobby.
I remember there was an interesting study that they did with rats. And again, these are rats, so it's kind of hard to tell, like, if it's true in humans. But I remember reading about this study where rats only got addicted to stuff when, like, the rest of their life situation sucked. Actually, wait, no. This also applied, I think, to veterans, right? You know what I'm talking about? Where, like, veterans people only got addicted to opiates, like morphine. People only got addicted to morphine if the rest of their life situation was also shit simultaneously. Go get a flu shot? No, I'm good. I'm good.
High and not problematic at all. About 2 in 10 users develop a cannabis use disorder, or CUD. CUD has 11 different symptoms, from the inability to stop when you've had enough, to using it when you know it will have negative consequences, to tolerance and withdrawal. They can all basically be reduced to you're doing it too often, even if it's bad for you, and it's less fun than it could be. There are 3 major risk factors here: the amount of THC, how often you consume, and your age when you start using cannabis. The more THC, the more often, and the younger you are when you start, the higher your risk. If you smoke too much weed too often, it will have negative impacts on your life. So if this is you, toning it down a bit will make a big difference. 1 in 10 users develops a serious addiction. They usually consume daily, and their life is significantly impaired or held back because they spend a lot of their time either using or recovering from cannabis use. Since their brain is building a tolerance, they need increasingly high doses or stronger weed, often both. Studies found a variety.
Yeah, because now that weed is becoming legal, there's going to be a lot of people openly creating, like, crazy strains.
Of negative effects. Heavy users can experience bad moods, feel irritable, restless, paranoid, anxious, and even depressive. In a sad twist of irony, for many addicts it feels like they need weed to fight these symptoms. Maybe it did actually help at first, while in reality it makes those symptoms stronger and more persistent. Studies also found that loneliness and frequent cannabis use go hand in hand. If you feel lonely, you're more likely to use weed, and if you use weed, you may experience more loneliness. It's not always easy to say which came first, but they seem to reinforce each other. So on the one hand, cannabis makes loneliness feel much less bad.
I have, like, no idea what it does. Doesn't it, like, relax you or something? It just makes you, like, feel chill or something?
On the other hand, it can also make you feel more socially awkward than you actually are and withdraw from friends. This can lead to a downward spiral that ends in self-isolation and chronic loneliness. Another thing many people who consume a lot experience is a mental numbness that makes boredom feel okay because it impacts the reward system of your brain. Not great, but good enough. You can spend your days killing time binging mildly interesting stuff, being numb rather than having fun. Boredom is a signal to your mind to get creative or learn something new, but this is suppressed. This also makes quitting so much harder because your daily routines suddenly seem boring and unexciting, making it very tempting to go back. If you find yourself using constantly, this can also stunt your development as a person. The numbness dulls bad feelings, making it easy not to deal with them. But in life, you can only get over bad feelings.
I see. So it's very similar to like alcohol in a sense that like it's good at dulling like when you feel bad about something. It's like something that you can take to like make that go away.
As if you actually feel them and you have to process them to grow. Lastly, let's talk about physical withdrawal symptoms. The more you consume, the worse they'll be for you, especially if you use daily. Withdrawal can cause headaches and sweating or chills, decreased appetite, in severe cases even fever, nausea and abdominal pain.
Wait, decreased appetite? I thought you get really hungry when you're on weed.
Might have trouble falling asleep, and if you do, you might have disturbing and vivid dreams. The withdrawal can put you in a depressive mood where life feels daft and pointless.
So wait, weed isn't like the type of drug that makes you like see shit? It's more like alcohol? I see.
You can feel restless, angry, anxious, or nervous. You may feel unable to do anything at all. After a few days, these symptoms will begin to subside, and after a few weeks, they'll be gone entirely. The exact time depends on how much and how long you've been consuming cannabis.
Dude, I almost feel like I should stop drinking like tea. I don't know, maybe. I don't drink alcohol, really, like barely. Like the only time I drink alcohol is like just to chill with my dad. I don't drink it like every day at all, but I do drink tea every day.
Now, let's get
At least it's not coffee though. I don't drink coffee.
to the worst part. Weed may damage your brain. This section was not fun to research because there's fierce debate among researchers how bad weed is for your
How much tea do I drink? Maybe like 1 to 2 liters a day.
brain and whether it has irreversible long-term consequences or not. There's no consensus yet, and it's hard to say anything definitive. Having said that, THC directly interferes with critical brain chemistry. There is some evidence that it may alter its structure.
Thank you for the follow,
If
Mr.
it
Boy.
does,
Thank
this
you.
may go away again if you quit after a few years, or not. We don't know yet. The consequences vary a lot between individuals, but especially for heavy users, they have a variety of potentially unfunny downsides. The most common one is that your memory gets significantly worse. Sustained heavy use may reduce your ability to learn, your reasoning, perception,
really?
attention span, decision-making, language abilities,
Wait.
and impulse control.
Wait, these are all things I have normally. That's not fair. I have all of these debuffs.
Sustained heavy use may reduce your ability to learn, your reasoning, perception,
Well, my learning is okay. My reasoning perception is okay.
attention span, decision-making,
My attention span now is fucked. It's fucked.
language abilities, and impulse control.
Actually, never mind. I don't have most of those.
Most negative effects seem to go away or at least weaken
I'm pretty sure I have ADHD though. Pretty sure.
over time after you quit, but again, we simply don't know enough and need more research. Where the evidence is much clearer is that consuming a lot of weed is really bad for teenagers on multiple levels. If you start using heavily early, you have many more years to build up potentially negative side effects. Teens who use a lot are much more likely to become addicted to weed. This may just be correlation and weed may not be the underlying cause, but heavy weed users are more likely to perform poorly in school.
Yo, I'm reading that matcha tea can have more caffeine than actual coffee. Because you're drinking the leaves. That's why.
And less likely to finish their education. They are, on average, less
If you don't know the difference between like regular green tea and matcha tea is that matcha tea, it's powdered, right? So you're actually drinking the leaves. Also, it's grown in the shade. It's the main difference.
satisfied with their life and what they've achieved. This may simply be because if your memory and motivation are stunted, you have fewer interesting experiences and forget the ones you do have. And there is strong evidence that teen users are way more likely to develop mental health issues like psychosis, schizophrenia, depression, or anxiety later in life. Once again, the younger you start, the higher the risk. And it also seems to rise massively with high THC doses, making highly potent cannabis products even more dangerous for teens. Okay, let's wrap this up. We've only focused on the negative sides in this video. That was the whole point. As we said before, for most people, weed in moderation is totally fine and definitely way less harmful than alcohol. You do you, we're not your parents.
Why is it less harmful than alcohol? Did they do a video on that?
The upside of moderation is also that when you do it, your experience will be more intense and special. But for teens, weed, especially using it regularly or a lot of it,
All
is
medicines
a
can be
bad
poisons
idea,
depending
with
on
potentially
dose.
life-changing
That's true. Sorry, man. That's true.
consequences. We know that criminalization did nothing to make this better. We now have a new chance under legalization. It begins with being open and honest about the state of science and acknowledging that weed is one drug among many others. Certainly not the worst one by a long shot, but also problematic for at least 1 to 3 out of 10 people using it. If you really have to try cannabis, there is a time and place, and that's in your 20s. If you're younger, the science is clear, don't do it. At least, not yet. You'll have plenty of time to experiment later.
Wait, what did they say? Hold on.
And that's in your 20s.
Oh, so that means that it's a perfect time for me, right, Julio?
If you're younger, the science is clear, don't do it. At least, not yet. You'll have plenty of time to experiment later.
You never smoked? No, I've never smoked. A lot
Let's
of people
do
think
a
I
different
smoked, but I don't.
experiment now.
I've never smoked.
Oh.
I really like these guys' videos, by the way. They're like really fun. I'm gonna link it to you guys. I'm gonna sub on my alt, but I love. Oh, they did a vaping video. Vaping is too good to be true. Brain development is considered average to be finished at the age of 25. I see.